alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sound from the Grave podcast. My name is Yussef.
And my name is Vania.
And we prefer the sledgehammer. It's a lot faster.
Of course, guys. So now that we are here, a day away when this episode does come out, it's going to be already the starting of hunt season, and that is HHN 30 is starting tomorrow, which is Friday. But you guys, of course, will be listening to this on Monday.
Yep.
And we will be attending. We will be there. And if you guys have already seen us, hi. Hello again. But since it is Halloween Horror Nights, we are going to be starting to cover some of the IPs on this podcast. And if you guys have not recognized our quote of the day, it is from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes. So I literally came up with the idea of doing this month regarding the IPs that we're going to be seeing at HHN to keep it relevant with what's going on at Horror Nights, and also to talk about some movies that we really want to talk about that we just haven't had a chance to yet. Specifically for me, because as you all know, Texas Chainsaw is my all-time favorite horror movie. So I'm very, very extremely excited to get into this.
Yeah, I had to rewatch it today, and I just realized that I feel like I watched two different movies. I'm like, did I remember the first time watching this? I don't know, but either way, I was so entertained today. It's just, 70s recording of the cinematic. We love that.
Gotta love 70s horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so yeah, we're gonna be talking about the original 74 Texas Chainsaw. Kind of breaking down the plot, talking about the things we like, the things we may not like, and even, at least something that I want to broach is like the subtext and like the deeper meanings in the film. But yeah.
Deeper meanings other than...
We'll get to those in a second.
Oh, that's probably you, because all I got was just massacring a whole bunch of strangers in a hillbilly house. What the fuck?
You'll see what I mean later then. Like, it'll start to make sense when I explain it later. But, yeah, so a bit of background. Texas Chainsaw obviously was released back in 1974, made by Tobe Hooper, who eventually would also go on to make the horror classic Poltergeist, which is, wow, like, to say that you made two of the greatest horror movies of all time is incredible. So, amazing. Love you, Tobe Hooper. Rest in peace. And yeah, the basic premise is, you got these 5 kids, teenagers, I guess like young adults, like people in their 20s, maybe early 30s or something. Driving
like they're
cross country.
college aged.
Yeah, around there. They're driving cross country or cross Texas, I guess, to go to one of the girls, to go to a graveyard. I'm sorry, I can't talk right now. To go to a graveyard because there have been reports of grave robbing in that part of Texas. And, they're like, oh, we better check because our grandfather's buried over here. We got to make sure that, nobody disturbed his grave and all that fun stuff. But almost immediately, chaos ensues.
And we, after that, the thing about that part of the movie is that it just instantaneously jumped back into the scene of them in the car, and that bothered me so much. And I was like, oh, why would you do that? It was like, well, for me, from a film major, well, I'm not film major, but I'm a film minor, actually. From a film minor perspective, it's like, why would you do that? It just feels like, you just kind of jumped all of a sudden. I get it was like probably due to time cuts and budget cuts kind of thing that they have to fill it with it then. But we do jump back into the car with all these 5 teenagers, and then they come across a lovely hitchhiker.
But wait a minute, girl, you jumping? We gotta start at the beginning. We gotta start at the.
You freaking jumped all the way over there too.
No, I was talking about the premise. I haven't gotten into the plot yet.
Guys,
Girl,
guys better give me the reason
all
because
this is just
he obviously already jumped because that part already
no.
happened.
I was giving.
Except for that happened.
I specifically said this is the basic premise of the film. I didn't say this is where it starts. Uh-huh.
I hate you.
I know you do. Because I'm right.
No, you're not right.
So
I just
anyway.
recently. When was the last time you watched it? I watched it tonight. When did you watch it?
This morning.
My mind is more fresher than yours, so irrelevant.
Mine
Anyway.
is more fresher than yours. Oh my god. Alright, let's start that again from the top then. So this movie starts with narration. Very creepy narration that makes it seem like this movie is based on a true story. Which it isn't, by the way. They made it seem they did it on purpose to sell more tickets. They did it on purpose to scare people. But it is not. It is loosely based on the crimes of serial killer Ed Gein. Because of the things he did and the things that you will see in the movie. But after that narration, we immediately get the creepy sights. Because we get like the sound of somebody digging something up. And then the camera flash. The infamous sound of the camera flash. And it illuminates a dead body. Were you gonna say something?
I am making noise, but apparently my mic is not picking up it again.
Up. Do it again.
I was like,
oh my god.
I made the camera flash sound. You're welcome.
just meow. Oh jeez. But yeah, like that. Anyway, that's like really creepy imagery though. It really is. Just cause like, don't do it. I see you doing. Stop.
Of course, we see all the lovely fingers and bodies, and they look really gross. With these imageries and flashing, it's kind of obscene.
Oh my god!
Anyway,
wow. Jesus Christ!
Hey, I might as well enhance the grossness since you're the one telling the story. Let's go.
Okay then. So.
In peace, headphone users, by the way.
Oh yes. We should have warned you about that earlier. But after that is when we get here's one of the things I like about this movie. It is filled with ridiculously creepy imagery. Because like right after that, you get this this shot of this graveyard in the middle of the desert. And these two bodies kind of like interlaced together, almost like a scarecrow. And it's just like gross and bloody and disgusting because like it's been in the heat, and you can like see that like some it's like decomposing and like dripping and stuff. You're like, that's gross. Like I can't even imagine what that must smell like. It's nasty.
I'll give you a hint. Death.
How did you know?
I don't know.
All the anticipation for I don't know. But anyway,
come up to the lab
and see what's on the slab.
I see you shivering with anticipation. Oh, he delayed it, and I gave him the cue.
I did it for suspense. I built the suspense. We should have just. I should have just not said anything. Just let you hold on to the silence with anticipation, and then I just talk about something else, and then I just ended with patient. But anyway, so after that is when we get introduced to our group of kids or people. I guess I don't know why I keep calling them kids because they're not kids. But we have Kirk, who is literally the guy that just looks like Fred from Scooby-Doo. The kid in the blue shirt and the blonde hair. Then you got the Velma of the group, Jerry, because he's the guy wearing glasses. And then you have Horoscope Girl. I don't know her name. I don't remember. But the girl that's like...
Sally?
No,
Pam.
Pam, yeah. The girl that's like obsessed with horoscopes. Then you have Sally, who is the woman that is going to the graveyard because she wants to know about her grandfather. And then you also have her brother Franklin, who is in a wheelchair. And the man is annoying as fuck.
Oh no, but for being annoying, like his character does grow on you for sure, though.
Oh, he does in an interesting way, because you kind of feel bad for Franklin because they kind of treat him like shit for the entire movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you're kind of like, Franklin, shut up for like a second.
Yeah.
Like, just do us all a favor, just for like a second.
A good solid second, please.
But yeah, so the group of people, they make it over to the graveyard, and they talk to this. Sally talks to this one guy. He's like, yeah, she's like, hey, like I want to go check out my grandfather. Like, where do I need to go? And they're like, oh, go over there. And they come across this drunk man. And the drunk man is like on the floor laughing his ass off. He's like, oh, like they don't know the things I've seen, but like I've seen plenty. And obviously, like, you're like, oh, maybe he knows something, or maybe he's just some crazy drunk guy. So, but yeah, that was, I do like that little opening. I like that opening shot of this guy just drunkenly laying on the ground and talking about this kind of stuff. Yeah, but what happens next, Vania?
I don't know. You kind of spoiled it in the beginning. Can't relate.
Well, now you get to the hitchhiker.
Anyway, so they're driving, minding their own beeswax, and then they come across this hitchhiker, and they're already making assumptions like, oh, he looks like Dracula, ill, he looks gross, kind of thing. But then they pick him up anyway, which I'm like, if you guys are so against it, why the fuck did you stop in the first place? I know in the 70s it was infamous for you to like just pick up a hitchhiker, drop it off where it needs to be. That's it. But I'm pretty sure after this, people have stopped in the 70s because of this movie. But anyway, but yes, they pick up a lovely hitchhiker. And he's very crazy. He's obviously very hillbilly-ish. He talks about pretty gross stuff that he apparently used to work at a slaughterhouse.
Yep.
He prefers a sledgehammer. Of course, he starts grabbing Franklin's knife. I think it was Franklin's.
Yeah, he asks to borrow Franklin's knife and like.
Yeah, and he cut his hand.
Yeah.
And then he gives it back, and then they're just looking at him like, what the fuck? This guy's like crazy. They're calling him like Dracula and all that shit. And then he grabs his own knife from his shoe, and it's like a whole like old razor shaving blade,
like a
kind
Sweeney
of thing.
Todd blade.
Yeah, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then they're like, please put it away. So then he starts whipping out his camera, taking pictures of them. Then they're charging them, and I'm like, dude, I would have dropped him off the minute he whipped out that camera. I'd be like, nah.
This man over here like Disney Photo Pass.
Yeah, I was like, at this point, this is human trafficking to some kind of level. Let's not drop him off. But nah, they just continue it until he started like acting sporadically. And
setting
then
the picture on fire when they didn't want it.
Yeah, and then they dropped his ass off in the middle of the road, and it was awful. But anyway, but then one significant thing is that he did smear blood, like a type of symbol, onto the van impressively to get some kind of symbol on the van to make it seem very noticeable. It's kind of like having it to track them later, but I know they should have wiped it when they could have. Anyway,
right?
Yeah,
well, we get to that in a sec. Yeah, because I know why that happens, but I'll let you know in a sec. But
so
I will say this: I love that scene because it's just so weird. Because it's literally just like this random long-haired guy just being like, "Hey, my family used to work in that slaughterhouse, and we used to use a sledgehammer. Can I use your knife? Here, let me show you my knife. Can I take your picture? Hey, your picture's gonna be $2. Oh, you don't want the picture? I guess I'll set it on fire." Like, that's the entire conversation that goes on in that scene.
I literally stopped the middle of the movie and like during those scenes, And to think that just to get to the not even the main point, but when I was looking, I was like, this intro is really long. Like nothing like has happened. I've seen this movie before, but I guess I have forgotten a lot about it because I guess I started interlacing the memories with the remake in a sense. So this goes on for a good, like the entire movie from beginning to end of what we've seen and the disturbing stuff, which we haven't even gotten to the meat and the bones of everything, is 30 minutes long. 30 minutes. And this movie is 89 minutes.
Yep. So
crazy.
We're moving along at a good pace here, folks.
Anyway,
I also do like that one line where he's like, "Oh, look, we picked up Dracula," but then he's like, "Oh, my whole family is working the slaughterhouse." He's like, "Oh, it's a whole family of Draculas."
Ridiculous, yeah. But either way, so of course they go, and I think they come across the gas station.
Yes, this is where they find the gas station, and they find like one of the weirdest looking people I've ever seen on film. Like that one guy that's just standing out in the sun, just looking up at the sun. And I'm over here like, dude, you can grab your chair, literally shift it back like 3 feet, and you're in the shade. Like, why are you just standing out in the sun? And he's like weird because he's got like a really like large forehead, but then like a small rest of the face. Like he just looks weird. And then he's just sitting there, just looking up at the sky. Like, dude, you're gonna go blind.
That's how I want to go.
Yeah, just looking up at the sun in a gas station in Texas.
Sounds about right.
In the 70s.
Where in this scene, I saw the girls' bell bottoms, and I'm like, man, I should buy myself some bell bottoms.
Bell bottoms.
Anyway, random, but moving along.
But yeah, that's where they stop at the gas station, and they meet the owner, and they're like, "Oh, hey, like, can we get some gas?" He's like, "Well, I'm out of gas. My tank's empty." And it's like, if you guys want to wait, it should be here by like the afternoon. That way, like, girls can chill here for a bit. We got some barbecue you can eat. Some good old fresh barbecue. And then he like starts asking them, it's like, "Hey, like, where are you guys going?" He's like, they're like, "Oh, we're going up to the old Franklin house." And he's like, "Well, you don't want to go over there." It's like, that's an old house. Like, what's over there for you to see? He's like, "Well, my dad owns the place." Y'all don't want to go messing around no old house. Like he's like, it's their house. It's their, if they want to mess with it, they can. Like, you can't just don't stop them from that. He's like, "You don't want to go over there."
Where did you expect them to go? Like,
yeah.
like I feel like at that point he was probably to initiate trying to go to their house instead, but
Yeah.
Could be wrong. Anyway, continue.
Or it's probably because of that too. Like, we'll get to that in a second because there's a little bit more that gets revealed later on in the movie. But yeah, they get their barbecue. They don't get gas, so they just leave. They're like, all right, we'll go up to the house, and that's when they notice that the hitchhiker had smeared the blood on the van. And it's like the funniest thing because Franklin's just like staring at it, and he's like, "Do you think he marked us? Do you think he can follow us?" And like he continues to say this for like another quarter of the movie. He's like, "Hey, maybe he followed us. Do you think he could follow us? I think he might have followed us." I'm like, Franklin, I think he might. Yeah, yes, you've said that multiple times.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point.
And then, like one of the guys, Kirk, he's like about to start cleaning it, but then they call him. He's like, he literally like throws a paper towel at Franklin's like, "Here, you clean it," and then leaves. And of course, Franklin doesn't clean it.
Sounds about right.
Oh man, it's just like the most random stuff that they do. It really is.
I feel like this movie felt like a really bad budgeted movie, but it does make sense all in the end. It's like, oh, okay, like, but it's like, it's like, why would you throw in this element in there? Why would you throw this element in there? It's like, what? Like, of course, with the Franklin, like you said, like you you think he's annoying, but you end up, as the movie progresses, you start to really feel bad because
He does get treated like shit.
yeah,
Yeah, like at one point, everybody like when they go into the house, they all just go upstairs, and he's just left downstairs by himself because he's in a wheelchair, like he can't do anything.
he can't go up,
And like
and then
I
he
love how he's just
keeps
like looking
calling
up,
Sally's name
like how he's
the
just looking up
entire.
the steps. Too. He's like, "Come on down, it'll be fun." He's just like blowing raspberries. Oh,
Some shit
jeez,
like that.
Franklin. Oh man, I
But
think I will say this: out of the you know the protagonist, I think he's like the most well thought out. Like he's the best acted one. Because the other ones are
for
just
sure,
like kind of normal. They don't have like much of a personality. But Franklin
yeah,
specifically, like he has like such random moments that he just does whatever.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah. So
But
then,
then Kirk and Pam come down, and then they're like, "Oh, like
where's the
where-
creek?
where's the creek and all this stuff?" And then, of course, Franklin tells them, "Oh, it's between two sheds. Keep going."
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So they go off. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna be gone for like an hour or so." He's like, "Great, we love that." Like, then they just go, and
Yeah.
I think this is when we start following Pam and Kirk, or was it when
Yeah. No.
Franklin
Yeah.
was wandering in the house?
No. This is well, before this is before they leave. But Franklin sees like a little gathering of bones on the ground in the
Yeah,
house, and then he looks
very
up and there's
culty.
like, yeah, and then there's some like more bones hanging from string. And it's
Yeah,
like really creepy because it's like also like covered in feathers. And you're like, what the fuck is up there? Like, what is that?
yeah. So of course he's starting to having the heebie-jeebies, like
Yeah, but the
as
okay,
the like shit's happening.
so then Kirk and Pam go off to the creek, and Kirk says the absolute meanest thing. Like when they're walking, like they you can barely even hear him say it because like they're there's like all like this laughing and running around and stuff. But you hear him say somebody should just shoot him and put him out of our misery. And I'm just like, damn, Kirk. Holy shit, dude.
Damn, I didn't even hear that
Like
part.
you trying to do Franklin dirty. Like
I
Jesus
think I didn't hear
Christ.
the end part though. Yeah, it's like someone should have
Like
taken
shut
that
up,
misery.
Kirk, you fucking cuck.
Yeah, like oh, this is where Franklin grew up. Like little Franklin grew up, and I'm like, like he never grew up.
And
Like
it's no,
he was never little.
yeah, it's like
He was.
Franklin was never little. You're like, holy shit.
They're so mean.
Like, damn, what did Franklin ever other than like annoy you, what did Franklin ever do to like actually, hurt you or anything?
Yeah, for sure.
Just because he's in a wheelchair, like just because he's like different, y'all just attacking
Yeah.
him.
But
But
then they go from the creek. Up they go to, they think, oh, it's a gas station. And then I'm like, you dumbasses, do you not see? All right, cool. So they go to like this random house. And I think Kirk was trying to scare Pam. Then,
yeah, well, yeah, because he finds a tooth.
yeah, then throws it, no, puts it in her hand. And she's like, ah!
Yeah, because he's like, I got something for you, and it's a literal human tooth. And she's like, what the fuck? She's like, you're such
They
an
didn't even
asshole.
think twice.
Yeah. But then that's when Kirk tries to knock on the door. He's like, hello, is anybody here? Like, do you think you have any gas you could spare that, like, we just need some gas? And that's when he realizes the door is open. So he goes in. So well, he doesn't go in. He's respectful enough to, like, stop and just kind of, like, look in. But he's like, hello, is anybody here? Like, hi. But he doesn't actually step inside the house until he hears a sound. Because, like, it's when he hears, like, a pig squealing noise.
Yeah.
So he's like, alright, let me go see what the fuck this shit is. He goes over there, he trips, and immediately the other face just pops out like, bitch. It
Sure.
just sort of
Just,
smacks him in the head with a hammer, with a mallet.
I think
And
it was with the sledgehammer too, because it's kind of like almost like the symbolism with the
yeah,
beginning cow in the beginning that's just hitting him in the side of the head.
yeah.
So then randomly closes door, nothing
Well,
happened.
and what's really creepy too is like there's no music, there's no lead up to it. You know how like normally movies now they'll like build up the music and then the jump scare. This movie had
Yeah.
like little to no music. So then you see him just walking into the house. He just falls. Leatherface just pops up. No stinker, no music. Smacks this dude in the head. Kirk falls. He's literally like having like a seizure on the ground. He's like shaking. And Leatherface literally hits him a couple more times. Drags him in and like slams that door shut. No music the entire time.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit! Like that's one of the things that's so crazy about that movie to me. Like the fact that it was so different because it just made everything feel real, like straight up. But after that, Pam is like, I wonder where Kirk has been. He's been missing for like 10 minutes now. Let me go walk in there and check on him.
I'm surprised that she hasn't even bothered to, hear the scream or just the thudding.
Yeah.
She's just outside. I was like, "Oh, girl, what? Are you
Well,
there?"
she like walked fast, like she walked farther out of the house. Like she just like sat on a bench.
Yeah.
And you don't really hear a scream. All you hear is like, ooh, like when he gets hit.
Oh my god.
And like the slamming. I think like when she hears the slam of the door, she's like, okay, let me go see what the hell is going on. And so she walks in, asking for Kirk and like trying to find him. That's when she makes the very, very gruesome discovery of the room that is filled with nothing but bones and chicken feathers. And it is disgusting.
But the thing that I liked about that scene is like when she's looking is the fact that they had like the bench that was kind of made out of human bones.
Yeah.
And then you see all the bones on the ground. And then this scene makes it take time. It wasn't like quick flashes or anything. It takes its time for her to look, process what she's looking at, and then she runs out of the room. Like it's like making sure that she's seeing what she's actually seeing. It's almost like she's in disbelief. Like the camera like completely like pans and like you see all these things on the ground and it takes a while.
Like it really takes
I've been on this scene for a while. And then it's
it really takes its time to really show you like all the disgusting and like messed up stuff that's in there.
Yeah, and once that happens, she runs out of the room screaming chicken shit, literally crazy. And then Leatherface comes out like, surprise, bitch. And then literally as she was trying to run out, he grabs her and like she was so close. Then he's like, nah, fam, you my new teddy bear now. Yeah, picked up. And I saw like this guy's huge.
Oh yeah, Gunnar Hansen was huge.
But her legs were so close to the ground, and I'm like, damn, like girl, you could be kicking him in the other direction, but okay. Then Leatherface puts her on a little hook as if it was Dead by Daylight. Just put on her back, and I noticed because I kept looking at this film, and Pam. There were times where I thought Pam was naked because her shirt is like one of those really weird.
It's like a cut at the back type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, where's her shirt? I'm like, oh, it's probably one of those things where it hangs from the neck.
Yeah.
And just imagine her bare back, not even a cloth cushion, her bare back just on the hook, and I'm like, oh god, and I felt it. I was like, oh god.
And that's where you gotta love the editing too, because everybody swears. They're like, oh no, you see the hook go into her. It's like you really don't. You see her get put near the hook, and then you see her shift.
Yeah.
Like they cut to that where she just shifts. But you don't actually see the hook enter her body.
Yeah.
But they really make it seem like you do. It's the same thing with Psycho, because in Psycho you never see the knife actually stabbing the body.
No, it's just
edited.
This, and that's her.
Yeah, it's just edited in a way to make it look like it is.
For sure.
So, and I can't even imagine how painful that must be in general, to literally be stuck on a hook and just hang from that. And not only that, to literally see Leatherface go to town with a chainsaw on your boyfriend.
The thing that surprised me a lot about this scene, I was expecting, I guess in the 70s, those wasn't even thought of, or maybe he just didn't want to do it, is the fact that when you see him go to town her boyfriend, you don't see blood splatter.
Mm-mm. Well,
And
what
you don't see the body or like
yeah,
anything.
because what they do is they
It's weird.
zoom in on Pam's face.
Yeah.
So you just like see just her terror. You can just imagine what she's seeing.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really effective as well without having to. It's good for budgetary reasons because you don't have to spend money on a fake body, you don't have to spend money on fake blood. And it's good
For
in
sure.
a way of like telling the story of like, man, you can't even begin to imagine the things that she's seeing. So, but
She's seen
yeah,
some things.
yep. Now it's when we see that some time has passed, and Jerry's like, man, where the hell are these fuckers at? I better go check this out. So he goes off by himself and be like, all right, let me go see if I can find these two assholes. So, he makes his way through the woods, finds the house, walks in, and just kind of looks around, looks at like the work area, where Kirk and Pam had been, attacked. And he hears something. So he's like, all right, let me go check what the fuck this shit is. And that's when he opens the freezer and Pam is right there. And she kind of opens her eyes and starts like seizing. And Jerry's fucking terrified. This poor man screams. And Leatherface just again just pops up and just howls. He just goes like, woo! And just attacks this poor man. Sort of beats him over the head with a hammer. And you're like, oh my god. Like, anybody that tries to walk in here just gets demolished. Like, stop walking in here. Because then he also grabs Pam again, puts her, like, stuffs her back in the freezer. And then he just goes and sits by his window and just, like, starts looking out the window, looking all paranoid and shit. Because, I mean, technically, like, in interviews, Gunnar Hansen, the guy who played Leatherface, he was like, I wanted to play him as somebody who was mentally challenged. So he is essentially a child in a man's body.
Yeah.
And it's very apparent because like the way he walks, the way he moves, the fact that he doesn't even talk. Like everything he does is just movements. So like I thought that was really interesting too. Like it's played very well.
So, of course, we see Sally and Franklin outside the truck, and they are calling out for dear life for their friends, mostly Jerry. They were a little bit concerned about Pam and Kirk, not that much.
No, they're like Jerry though.
Jerry though,
but Jerry though. I do love the fact like how Franklin is screaming. He's like Jerry, Jerry, and then and then he just goes, hey. Like I don't know why that just cracks me up because he's just like looking out into the darkness, just going, hey.
Yeah. So then Sally becomes impatient and she's like, "Give me your flashlight." Then he's like, "No, we are gonna honk the horn. Hope they see us, and if they don't come like running, we're gonna leave." Then Sally waits a little bit. They keep on calling, and then Franklin loses his shit. He's like, "I'm gonna beep on this thing." So I'm gonna goes to the truck, starts beeping on the little horn, but then realizes there's no key, and then he's like,
which confuses the hell out of me because I'm like, then how are the truck's lights on?
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, wait, if the keys are not in the truck, then how are the lights on?
Yeah, I was like,
that always confused me. I was like, maybe it was like this. Maybe some cars were like that. Like they were like operated independently. Like they just had like a switch for the lights.
But I feel like I heard the truck a little, like the engine kind of running a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just like,
and then all of a sudden it was off at like towards that thing. I was like,
very convenient.
Very convincing. You love that. Oh god, that hurt. Sorry, I just hit myself with the podcast mic. But either way, he's like, "Where's the keys?" So then he's freaking out, and then Sally, starts literally going ape shit, saying, "Give me the flashlight!" I'm like, "Yo, you're challenging a whole ass handicapped man." And he's holding to that flashlight on his dear life.
Yep.
He's like, yeah. And then she's like, "Fine, I'm I'm gonna go by myself.
I love the fact. I just love his dialogue so much. He's like, "I'll go with you, Sally. I'll go with you. Don't worry. I'll go with you, Sally. Just let me hold onto the flashlight."
Oh man. So this is what I was like, man, like you're annoying, you're likable, but you're very annoying. So like he's like, Sally, I can't keep up, and you just see this wheelchair trying to catch up to Sally, and then at the end, you have to be really paying attention. Like you have to see, like towards the end of the shot, you see Sally finally giving in and then starting to roll his wheelchair.
Yeah, literally, you can like see her. Yeah, you can literally see her just go like, ugh.
Yeah.
Fine. Like you can see the moment where her soul leaves her body.
She was so fed up, and he was holding on to the flashlight. And I think that's when we see them like going through the woods. They're like looking to see which direction of the house it was, I think.
Well, yeah, they were just like just kind of going into a direction, just calling for somebody, like for Jerry or for anybody.
Yeah.
And then they like hear the generator of the house in the distance. They're like, oh, I think that could be where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, you know, as they're walking through the woods, they're getting closer. Franklin's like, wait, stop, Sally. I hear something.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden,
boom!
Lights. And Leatherface goes to town on Franklin. Then Sally's face. This is where it gets me. I'm like, Sally's face is just sitting there, mortified, screaming as he's going to town on Franklin. I'm like, girl, run. Like, what are you doing? So she finally moves after like 30 seconds of screaming. And she starts running, and then obviously Franklin's
and she
dead.
does not stop.
And then I felt so bad. I was like, damn, I really liked Franklin. Like, he was only one personality. He was annoying. But damn, like, you just can't get attached to anyone. Like, I didn't care about the other four. I only cared about Franklin because I was like, at least
he has a personality, yeah.
Yeah. So then, this scene had me looking away. I got distracted on my phone for like 3 minutes, maybe 4, of just straight Leatherface and Sally.
Yeah, it's like a Tom and Jerry chase scene.
Yeah,
because they are
running.
They are straight up running for a long ass time to the point where Sally runs into the house, goes up the stairs, finds the grandparents. I think the grandmother is dead, but the grandpa is just like sitting there. Spends enough time screaming about that, jumps out the window, then continues to run all the way to the gas station. This is all in the span of like 5 or 6 minutes that this entire just running scene is just happening. And let me tell you, this girl, Sally must have been 3 minutes. Sally must
3
have been
minutes and 24 seconds.
Sally must have been an Olympian because that girl ran straight up without stopping.
Yeah.
Like, girl even jumped through a window. Like, holy shit.
Didn't even break a bone. Didn't break a bone.
Nah, she was fine. That's an Olympian blood in her.
Nah, but it was like...
It's because she's Texas born and raised.
I'm sorry if you're from Texas and you're hearing this. Anyway, so finally, we got to the end of the chase until she reaches the gas station. She's screaming, "Oh, help me! You can take this poor girl is shaking, like convulsing everything. Like she is not having it." To the same guy that we met in the beginning of the film, and then he's like, "Oh, we don't have a phone. We're just gonna have to take you to like the Childress." I think.
Yeah, Childress is the name of the town. Yeah.
I was like, "What the fuck is the Childress?"
No,
and I was like,
"Well, to Childress, it's a town."
Oh,
yeah. It's like we're gonna have to drive over to Childress.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go get the truck. So you see her shaking her ass off. She's just like, "I don't know how I'm gonna live," that kind of thing. And then she stares at some random, weird, like oven-looking thing. I don't know what it's
the meat on the the barbecue meat, I guess.
Yeah, and then it looks like human bodies on there. she realizes something is very terribly wrong. She's on the wrong side of time. She's like, I'm
about to fucking die.
I'm about to fucking die. This guy comes back in. I forget his name.
He doesn't have a name in the movie. I think he's just the gas station owner.
One of the Sawyers, anyway.
Yeah, one of the Sawyers.
Comes in and, of course, brings a big old, I'm guessing it's one of those,
he just like a burlap
sack thing, hay sack, burlap sack kind of thing. And then he's like, oh, like, I like just, don't struggle, don't do anything, just
his attitude
just
about
cooperate.
it is so
I'm like, how
weird.
do you expect me to cooperate when you about to whole ass drive me down, bitch? The fuck?
And his whole attitude about it is so weird because he just walks in kind of all like scared and like shy. He's like smiling. He's like, "Now don't you be a trouble now, dear. Okay, just cooperate now." You're like, don't be smiley like that. That's disgusting, dude. Gross.
And what made me laugh is that she had a whole ass, I think it was a whole ass knife or some shit. And then he starts beating her with a broomstick.
Straight up.
She's not fighting back. And I'm like,
she's like,
girl.
He's like an abuela. He just like grabs a broomstick and just goes to town on her.
Like at that point, just
to the point where it breaks the broomstick. Because at one point he just has the stick in his hand. He doesn't even have the broom anymore.
That scene was weird. I was like, oh, okay.
That whole scene with the gas station owner is just weird. The whole 100%. Scene with him. Because, like, he knocks her out, ties her up, and, like, puts a sack over her head so she can't see anything. Puts her in the truck, turns the truck on, realizes something, turns the truck off again, runs back into the house and turn off the lights and close the door, and then goes back to the truck and says, hey, I had to turn the lights off and close the door. Electricity's really high these days. Like, they take the time to put that in there for no reason.
Yeah. I was like, someone was really tight on that script, huh?
He's like, somebody. The electric prices are really enough to put a man out of business. You're like, oh my god.
But, we love this movie. But either way.
Man, it was the best.
The fact that he was like, oh, like, don't be, I hope you're not too uncomfortable. And then he starts, I don't know what he's doing with the
I think he's just poking her with the broomstick just to annoy her. Because, like, she's, like, crying, but then as he starts doing it, she just starts yelling. So I think he's just like poking her
off on that kind of thing. He's like getting off on it. I was like, oh.
He's a fucking hypocrite too. Yeah. He's like, he gets off on that, but then like later on when they get to the house, he's like, I don't approve of all the killing. I'm like, bitch, yeah, but you enjoy hitting people with broomsticks?
But technically he never murdered anybody.
I know, but he's just like, oh, I feel bad about what they're doing to you. And I'm like, no, you don't. You were part of it. You knew what you were doing.
You just like torturing. The killing, you're not doing it.
Because you're the one who's grabbing the meat, like they're cooking it, but you're the one who's grabbing it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, shut up. But before we get to that, we do get back to the entrance of the house, and that's when we find out that the hitchhiker was part of the family the entire time. He wasn't just some random dude. And you'll see the lovely relationship between the Sawyers, because the gas station owner just walks out with the broomstick, starts beating the shit out of him. He's like, why the fuck did you do that? Didn't I tell your ass to get your ass home?
Yeah, or like, don't get caught. Like,
you're not supposed to get caught. What the fuck were you doing in that graveyard?
But they didn't see me, I swear.
I'm imagining like that one where it's like, what the fuck is up, Kyle? Come on, Kyle, what the fuck is up?
I can just imagine hearing like Kyle Prescott right now. They're like, wow, my name. Why did it have to be Kyle? Love you, Kyle. The shit's still awful, by the way. But
stop with the shade.
That's what I do best. I get paid, not really to
throw shade.
Throw shade, 100%. But either way, they get back into the house. They bring the girl inside the house. And they do some pretty fucked up shit.
They really do. Yeah, because like that's when you see again some more of the relationship between the family. Because obviously Leatherface they kind of treat as the cook. Because he's like, well, did you make sure all those kids were taken care of? He's like, he's like trying to point to the refrigerator, like the freezers, like they're all in there, but the guy just like keeps jumping at him and like trying to hit him with a stick, while he's like trying to explain it. He's like trying to point at it. He's like, stop, don't hit me. He's like right there, and then he like points behind him, and I never noticed this until just like when I was watching this today. When he points, you can see it. He points at Franklin's wheelchair, because like he grabbed the wheelchair. I didn't even notice that when I first saw the movie. Like, all right, just
He
noticed
does.
it. And that's when the guy turned around. He's like, "So you got all of them?" He's like, "Yeah." Literally, he's like, "Uh huh." And then I love the fact that the gas station owner like looks at him. He's like, "All right, you did a good job." And she's like, "But get your fucking ass in the kitchen." Like he doesn't even give like a second. He's like, "I'm abuse you anyway."
Leatherface just wants to get some praise. I'm pretty
Like
sure.
that's all he wants.
Yeah, he thinks. I think if he was not so much of a killer, he would have a praise kink.
I think he still has a
And
praise
this
kink.
is when
I think he still has a praise kink, even without the killing. Like
Fair.
he just has a praise kink.
Yeah, I do too. The fuck, me and Leatherface, let's link up, bro. Anyway,
Well, let's link up, bruv.
I have both. I have two. I have degrading and praise. So that's not gonna end up well. Anyway,
Before we get into too much there.
y'all already know I have the knife kink. Why is this a problem? Anyway, we go to Sally. Sally is being tortured and all kinds of shit. She eats with the family. They get poke fun at her.
Infamous dinner scene.
Yeah, they poke fun at her. They're literally like mocking her. Leatherface gets really uncomfortably close.
Like 6 feet, dude. Social distance.
Yeah, no such thing. And then you like you said, the one of the gasoline guy, the gasoline Sawyer. He was like, "Oh, they don't appreciate all all the killing. I don't like killing." I was like, and then the other guy's like, "No, you're just a cook. You do all the work." And I'm like, "Damn, this family."
It is literally just.
And the other thing is like when they cut her finger and then the grandfather's just sucking on it.
Yes, it's so gross.
Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I was like,
yeah, especially because they're like, yeah, I wasn't any good at the killing, but you know who was good at the killing? Grandpa. And they bring this old, literally looks like a dead person already, old man. And like they sort of just kind of cut a little bit of finger, and he's like, "Here, Grandpa, suck it up." And it's disgusting because like it's like the worst like the world's worst slurping sound, and he's making like all these weird like motions, almost like a baby does when a baby's feeding. You know how they kind of like like shake their arms and stuff. Like that's what it looked like. It was just gross and nasty looking. Oh, and then probably the funniest part for me, honestly, is when they give Grandpa the hammer, and like he just keeps dropping it.
Yeah,
They're like, "It's okay, Grandpa, you got this," and they grab it and they put it in his hand and he just drops it again. "Don't worry, Grandpa, you can do this. You got her." And they put it again. It just falls over and over again.
I'm pretty sure he went for like 2 minutes. Honestly,
I'm over here like, Grandpa clearly doesn't got this. Grandpa needs a hand.
So yeah, then what the hitchhiker I think decides to like, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna do it kind of thing. So I think he's the one that does it, right? He's the one that kind of
yeah. He beats her like a few times, but then that's when she manages to escape. But before we get to that section, I really want to talk about the cinematography in this section, because like obviously there's all this like horrible shit happening to Sally. And I love that every time they would cut to Sally, they would get closer, like the camera would get closer to her. To the point where at one point all you see is just like her eyes, and you see like the little veins and just the white of her eye. Like you see so much detail in her eye. And it's just, you see the desperation and like the fear and stuff, and I'm like, that's really, really good cinematography. Like, wow. But anyway,
I agree.
enough about us being little film nerds.
Yes. And sorry if there have been times of silence. My microphone's acting up, so I need to get another one before the next time we record for sure, because it's starting not to pick up things, and it's annoying.
It's all good though. We can get that fixed. But then Sally is able to escape. Girl jumps out another window. Because windows don't mean anything to Sally, damn it. Like I said earlier, she was Texas born and raised, and in Texas, you don't need windows.
It did it again, did it?
Yeah, it did.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
She's like, she doesn't give a fuck about windows. She's like, I am gonna manage to be okay even getting out of windows, and I don't break bones. I'm an Olympian, and I am the final girl. So it is like, yeah. So she's running for her life, of course, and this is when all the Sawyers are kind of coming after. I think she manages to escape, or a good chunk of them.
So, well, the gas station owner and the grandpa stay behind, so it's just Leatherface and the hitchhiker go after her. And at first, the hitchhiker's just kind of like playing around with her, just like running around in circles and like not actually doing anything to get her back. But what happens when you fuck around too much? You get hurt, because guess what happens to him? He gets his ass run over by a fucking semi-truck. Straight up.
I was like
kablam. He just goes blop.
Done.
And then at the same time, Leatherface is still chasing Sally. And I absolutely love the truck driver. Because he stops the truck, he gets out, and he sees Sally, and then he sees Leatherface coming around the side of the truck. This man, as soon as he just flips around. He's like, nope. Just turns around and just goes, nope. He just immediately.
That was probably the most smartest truck driver I've ever seen.
It was just, well, he, in that moment he was, because he does some stupid shit later.
Yeah.
Because, like, he goes back into the truck, opens the door for Sally. Sally goes in, and instead of, I don't know, turning the truck on and driving off, they just open the door from the other side and go onto the other side of the truck. And and then of course this guy like picks up a wrench, like a monkey wrench, and him and Sally are just running, they're booking it. And at one point he turns around, throws the wrench, just hits Leatherface in the face, makes him fall and drop this chainsaw on his leg, so he's limping.
Oh my god.
And it's even worse because then the truck driver's just like, fuck this shit, and just runs, and you never see him stop, he just keeps running. Like, he just runs. You never ever see him stop. Like, I was making the joke when I was watching it. I was watching this by myself, and I still made the joke. It's like, and to this day, that man is still running.
Yeah, that sounds about right, though.
You never see him stop. It's the funniest thing. And then that's when a handy-dandy pickup truck shows up, because only in Texas.
Yeah.
Pickup truck shows up, and Sally's able to jump in the back, and she's like, dude, fucking drive. Let's get the fuck out of here.
And she's kind of like escapes the hands of death, and she a little smirk comes across her face because she's like, holy shit, I lived.
Laugh crying, yeah.
Yeah, like, and then, of course, there is this infamous scene that everybody loves to refer to, and it is when Leatherface is swinging his little Texas file, his little chainsaw.
His little Texas chainsaw. Leatherface is over there twirling around his little Texas chainsaw.
And guys, that's
what Leatherface Leatherface calls his dick, his little Texas chainsaw.
See, then he gives me shit about talking about kinks. Bro, what the fuck? No!
And now he's like, he calls it his little Texas chainsaw. When he's trying to pick up a girl, he's like, you wanna go start a massacre?
You're disgusting. Oh my god, no. Anyway, but yeah, and then when I saw this scene,
we get the scene with the dance with the chainsaw. We'll call it that.
yeah, when I saw this scene, now that I had the privilege and realized I need to work out more, one of the show directors at Petrified lent me a chainsaw, and I couldn't rev it, and it's heavy. So I was like, damn, that whole fucker is swinging around a whole ass chainsaw. That shit heavy.
And he
So
swings
I was
around
just
like
like,
it's
damn.
nothing.
Yeah, so I was like, damn, like this guy's really swinging it like nothing. I want that ability, goddamn, like shit. So of course, the cinematography is really good, and I really like the lighting because you can kind of tell that Leatherface is still alive, but of course, it's not the end of the movie, or far from the end in the franchise, and
Yeah.
that's when the credits hit. Yay, it's done.
Like it doesn't like fade to black or anything. The movie just stops.
Yeah,
It's almost like almost like it ran out of film. It's just like whoop, it stops,
yeah,
and then it just cuts to credits. So you're like,
absolutely.
goddamn. Yeah, but so yeah, that's pretty much like what happens in the actual, like beat by beat, what happens in Texas Chainsaw. There are a couple of things that I wanted to talk about with the movie, though. The first one being the cinematography, because we already talked about that. It's incredibly beautiful cinematography. Like, it really brings out the atmosphere of like the Texas heat when they're driving through the desert, and then like just like the disgusting, like horrible conditions that the Sawyers were living in. Like
Yeah.
it just really, it's really immersive. Like it really makes you feel like you're in the middle of that stuff. And I definitely liked how they showed how, because this all happens across 2 days, I think. So like the day, like the day that the majority of the stuff takes place in, and then the morning after. And I love the fact that they did this. The movie starts off by showing sunlight, and then at one point they show it again when they get to the gas station, because that's kind of to signify it's like, okay, now we're nearing the afternoon. And then when Jerry goes off to look for Kirk and Pam, it's a lot more orange, because you're like, okay, the sun is going down. So like they point, they take a shot of the sun looking all orange, and then when night falls, they take a shot of the moon. So like every time the time changed, you would see a shot of what was in the sky, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. A lot of films do that. It's
Yeah.
more like you kind of lose a track of time in film sometimes, and it kind of sucks because it's just like, did this happen during a day? Did this happen during a week?
Mhm.
Or they have to kind of justify it or write it somewhere in the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
And then what I was explaining a little bit earlier too about the subtext of the film, and like really the message that I was trying to get across, which is, I think it's mostly about two messages. Like I've done a little too much research on this, to be honest with you.
Same.
I mean, it's my favorite horror movie. Shut up. I want to do research. I like the research part of it. Um, it's very, very much so about the current, or like the 70s. So what will be in the 70s, the current economical climate. Because during that period of the 70s, there was a gas shortage. There was a lot of new technology being made available to blue collar workers that was essentially eliminating farm work, which is kind of like what they were talking about when they go through the slaughterhouse. Like, yeah, like we used to be the killers, now they got that gun. So it's pretty much how far these people were willing to go to survive and provide for themselves, because of the current economical like situation that they were in. So it was very much like kind of not making fun of, but like bringing to light, like, hey, this is stuff that's affecting American people. Like, the fact that there's no gas, the fact that there's no work. So like people are like, how am I gonna provide for my family? How am I gonna survive? Guess I'll turn to cannibalism or something.
People will go
And
to extreme measures to
yeah.
they
And
need to.
it's also kind of making fun of your typical American family during the dinner scene. Because you have, the father at the head of the table, the son, and then Leatherface is also the mother, because that's when he's wearing the pretty lady face makeup.
Yeah.
So if you see it, it would be like your typical like 1950s happy family. You got your dad, your mom, and your kid. In this
Yeah.
case, though, it's completely horrific and it's turned on its head. So it's also kind of like uh, a critique of what was considered American values at the time. And even then, it's a movie pretty much about being a vegetarian. Because every time a victim is killed in this, it's shown in a way that's very realistic, and it's a similar way that animals were killed for food. Like to the point where they were, like they said earlier, they were hit with the hammer, or they were impaled on meat hooks, because that's literally what they were used for. They would put animals on meat hooks. So like the fact that they use these humans essentially as meat and use them as if they were cattle or livestock, it's like like this is essentially what you're doing to your meat whenever you buy it. Because like Toby Hooper was like, yeah, you guys should probably be vegetarian. So there's a lot of
This is
hidden
why I
meaning in
tried
there.
to watch those videos. Yeah, I remember there in high school there used to be like videos of people filming inside of slaughterhouses and seeing how they tortured and murdered the
Yeah,
animals. And I have considered to go vegetarian so many times, but I just can't. I
it
love my meat too much, and it sucks.
it is
And
difficult. I've tried to go vegetarian a few times myself. It's very very hard because I'm so used to eating meat, and like everybody else in my family eats meat, so I'm like it's because I still live with family, so like I cannot consciously make that decision because it affects
yeah.
the other people around me. So, but if I were to live by myself, I would be able to try it again. I think in kind of in a safer space, I guess,
Mhm.
or at least cut out certain meats. Because for a while I wasn't eating any red meat, which was kind of
Yeah.
nice. All I was eating was chicken
Oh,
and
I
fish.
love red meat. I could go without eating chicken, but I love red meat.
Like I wasn't eating any beef or pork. I was eating straight up just chicken and fish.
Oh, I don't eat pork at all.
Mm.
I don't eat fish at all. I don't eat pork
I
or
love
fish.
fish. I love
And
fish.
because I don't like seafood. I don't like
Mm.
fish. I don't like any of that. I am very chicken and just beef in general. But pork tastes weird to me, and it's gross. And I only like it when it's pinchos, but that's it.
Or
Like,
bacon.
huh?
Or bacon.
But it's like a few slices. It's not like, oh, I could
Well,
eat bacon all day long.
no, but like bacon is still pork.
Yeah, I know, but it's not like, oh, I can eat like a whole pork chop, or I could eat like,
Mm.
things like that.
So
Because it's
you
just I
don't.
feel
So
sick.
you don't eat chuleta?
No, I don't like it.
What kind of Puerto Rican are you?
I'm more vegan than you. Okay, like,
Vegan? Since when are you vegan?
nah. I mean, I know that there's like a type of diet that's like not too much. Like, wow, this turned into like a whole thing podcast.
What
Hi
just
guys,
happened?
how are you? What
What
just
just
happened?
happened?
We just kind of just started a casual conversation on meat. And, like, just, but yeah, long story short, I don't eat pork. I don't eat a lot of pork, and I don't eat fish. The only fish I have eaten is flounder, but it's very, very like minimalistic in my life. Like I
Mm,
can live without fish, and I don't like chuleta. I don't like pork chops. I don't like.
mm. It's all good.
I
It's
like.
to each his own,
Yeah,
I'm just messing with you,
yeah,
just
clearly,
because I can.
yeah. But I love steak. I love steak, and I love beef steak. So.
Mm.
Red meat is my shit. But the cows are so cute. There's literally a cow farm like right in front of my house, and I cry because they have to go away. Like, no, they're so cute.
It just always reminds me of that one episode of Schitt's Creek when they're like trying to plan the wedding venue, and they're like, "Hey, we have this spot that opened up," and it just happens to be the day where they run the animals through the slaughterhouse, and they're like, "Oh hell no, we're not getting married here."
Damn, I haven't watched Schitt's Creek. I have to.
Oh, it's a great show. You definitely have to watch it.
Yeah.
Um,
So, any more symbolism in Texas Chainsaw Massacre that I'm not aware of?
um, not that I can think of that I can remember at least. Um, but we do have to love the fact that obviously this was inspired by you know Ed Gein and some of the most notorious serial killers. Um, but in a horror film perspective, obviously it was one of the first, considered one of the first slasher movies.
Okay.
Um, and not only that, it inspired, to relate it back to HHN, it inspired two major characters because it
Yeah.
inspired the caretaker and it inspired Eddie. Because the caretaker was straight up, he was known for digging up dead bodies, which is what they do in Texas Chainsaw. Um, the whole thing of like making furniture, obviously that was also Ed Gein, but the movie aspect of it also came from Texas Chainsaw. And of course, Eddie is literally the biggest fan of slasher movies, and he's also carries a giant chainsaw around. Like, he is essentially Leatherface at this point. Um, and that's why we like to say here that Leatherface is the original Chainsaw Leather Daddy.
Yep.
Pretty
That's the
much.
father of all leather daddies and chainsaw leather daddy
Yeah.
is.
But that is really all I had to say on Texas Chainsaw, and like some more of its like hidden meaning and subtext. So I'm
You
curious
know
to
what's
know.
crazy
Mm,
is that this film was only 140,000 on its budget.
really? That's crazy.
Uh,
And this shit, well, at the time too, when it came out, I think this was before Halloween came out. It was the most profitable independent film ever made until Halloween came out, and that held the record for a long ass time until
well, to be
Clerks came out.
fair, until what?
Until Clerks came out in the 90s. By Clerks with Kevin Smith. Like
No.
that was all that right. I don't know if it still is, but for a while it was also the highest grossing independent film ever made.
Uh, because of Halloween. It's because of the name. Because of damn her name. Why did I forget her name?
Lori,
Lori. But no, the actress. Shit.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, it's because Jamie Lee Curtis is attached to a famous like scream queen already, and like that's why probably Halloween did so well
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure names like that. It's like the woman from Psycho. Yeah, her daughter's in it.
yeah.
You know,
Well, it's not
and
even just that too. It's because Leatherface had, because it was considered so violent and so disturbing. It did not get a as big as theatrical release as Halloween did either. So it wasn't able to get to many people.
yeah, I see that movie and I'm like, damn.
Like, can you imagine going to a theater and seeing that for the first time? Like, that would be terrifying.
Save the cows and chickens.
Like, that movie
It's
to
a
me is
campaign.
still like, to me that movie is still chilling. Like, it's just like, because like I'm so afraid of
Okay,
what.
so I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Who do you think is grosser? Oh, I know we haven't talked about this movie yet. The Firefly family or the Sawyer family?
Um, that's very, very tough. If I had to say, I would say the Fireflies, because at least the Sawyers were necrophiliacs. Because the Sawyers didn't fuck the dead bodies; they just ate them or took pictures of them. But like the
Yeah.
Fireflies were like, nah, we're gonna get up in there, get up close and personal.
Yeah. I feel like Rob Zombie might have gotten some inspiration from
just
Texas.
just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he had, it's not like the kids pick up a hitchhiker, and it's not like it's like a family of cannibals. It's not like it's in a farm. It might just be a little bit.
Wait, run.
A
I cut off, didn't I?
little bit.
Run, rabbit, run. All right, there it is.
But yeah, that's pretty much our thoughts on Texas Chainsaw. Now, I want to know, Vania, what is your ranking? Like, what do you give this film out of 10? Out of 10, not 5.
If you guys saw the last podcast, that's why he's probably doing that shit. I don't know. I think for me, it's a. I feel like I'm gonna get a shit for this. It's a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Because it was a good film. It was. I really liked. I enjoyed the cinematography. I liked the storytelling and all that. But I feel like there was just a lot of random elements that could be done without to tell the movie more efficiently. I do like those long shots, so I'm not complaining about those. I'm just talking about the repetitiveness and things that could have had a little bit less time consuming, especially in the beginning. Um, some of the cinematography, the gain in this movie drove me nuts.
Well,
Like
that
the
also
night
has to do.
scenes.
Well, that also
Yeah,
has to do with the budget because it's expensive as hell to shoot at night because you have to buy so many lights. Plus,
yeah,
also they didn't have the nicest cameras. So I think they shot this on like 16 millimeter film, so
yeah,
it looks grainy as fuck. Because
yeah. It drove
that's just
me
the only way it
nuts.
could look.
Yeah, so I really did appreciate like some of the night lighting because I know that they tend to use that natural blue night light. My dad always gives shit about horror films. I'm like, why is the light always blue? Like, do you just look outside and it's automatically blue everywhere? Like, no, like where does this film like get this like stereotype of the why the night has to be blue? But I get it, but I think it matches the vibe, at
Mhm.
least for me. Especially when it comes to like forest scenes or like anything that's outdoors, or anywhere that's deserted. But like yeah, from the little grainy parts to things that could be done without the repetitiveness, I feel like it would have gotten a higher ranking. But overall, Rose Factor and everything else, storytelling, it was great. My kind of movie. So yeah, a 10. No, not a 10, a
A
7 out of
7.
10. Guys, it's been a long day. And another long day tomorrow at HHN. So,
Yes.
what about
Um.
you?
So I'm never gonna give. It's very rare for me to give a movie a perfect score, and I'm gonna continue that. I would never give this film a perfect score. But I will get close. I would just give it a 9. Um, because outside of those little like nitpicky things, I can overlook a lot of that stuff. I really appreciate the cinematography, the atmosphere, um, just like the really disturbing imagery in it. The characters are, especially Leatherface and the Sawyer family, they're just disturbing and just really creepy to me. Um, and just for me, like what scares, like what's for me is what's scary about it is the fact that it is based around reality. Like this is something that could literally have happened at some point or another. Like that for me is what's creepy. Like I prefer that kind of stuff over like ghost stories or like like oh the based on a true story, but you're like it's about a ghost. Like I don't know how true it could be type
Do you
stuff.
not believe in ghosts?
I do, but like immediately people think that like you put based on a true story in a movie and it immediately makes it scarier. And I feel like at this point they do it just to sell tickets now, which granted is what Texas Chainsaw did. Like blatantly, they were like, by the way, yeah, this is based on a true story. Um,
They didn't really state it, but they made it seem like it did.
yeah, they made it exactly. They made it seem like it did. But yeah, like that's one of the things I liked about it. The fact that it didn't bill itself as a true story, but it made itself seem like it was. So that's one of the things I appreciate, and the fact that it is shot like almost like a documentary as well. Like it isn't like these fancy camera angles or anything like that. It's just straight into the point. Like here's what you're looking at. Here's where it is on the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, because of that, and like I said, it's certain things that I didn't like about the movie. At one point, Franklin does get a little grating. The movie, the unending chase scene tends to drag for quite a bit because it is almost 4 minutes long. So like, if that could be shortened, this would have been even better. But yeah, like stuff like that. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, like this has been going on for quite a while. Like we can cut to something else now. I think that'll happen sometimes. But outside of that, I give it a 9 out of 10. Very enjoyable movie. I love this movie a lot. So
Clearly.
I have a
So
deep appreciation for this movie.
clearly. Anyway, but I've heard some things for the HHN house. I heard that it's not what you think it to be, especially knowing. I'm not gonna say it. I mean, I should say it. But like, 2016 wasn't exactly great. Texas Chainsaw house. It was okay for the most part. It still scares me. Chainsaws still scare me. Every time anybody has a chainsaw near my face, yeah, like I'll scream, and you can say chainsaw noises, and I'll cry. But either way, what do you expect to see in this house of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, knowing the fact that people have said that it is not what it seems and it is 10 times better? But I also heard that some, I could be wrong, because I haven't seen it clearly, some elements of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is it.
Okay, that's gonna be cool. Well, let's do it this way. Since I haven't seen Texas Chainsaw 2 in a long ass time, I don't remember all like the major details of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go based off Texas Chainsaw 1. The things that I would love to see the most are probably gonna be the room with the bone couch, the dinner scene, and possibly the scene where Kurt gets his head bashed in and Pam gets put on the meat hook. Like that, those three for me would be like my top three things I would love to see in this.
Yeah. I could definitely see like the Pam being on like a harness
Yeah,
and make it seem like she's on the hook,
exactly.
kind of thing. It would be cool to see, because I feel like if we were to see the him chopping off the boyfriend, it would be one of those scenes that HHN always tends to do, is that they have the table and then you just have Leatherface like right next to you and he's just going to town.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they might defy this rule where they're going to have the boyfriend like kind of reach out to you, but I don't know. But he's supposed to be dead kind of thing.
So we'll see.
But they tend to always have like a victim like trying to reach for you, kind of thing. It would be cool, or a really nice change of pace. I don't know if they've done this. Has HHN ever done this where they do like a daylight scene? Like it would be cool to actually see like a deserted daylight like room where it seems like they're still like the teenagers are coming in and they come across the hitchhiker.
I actually don't, at least that I can remember, I don't think we've ever done a daylight scene.
Yeah. I think it would be cool just to have a room that's completely isolated in daylight. Like almost like a tiny tunnel looking daylight thing, so they don't take away the entire studio or soundstage lighting, and then everything else to make it indoors, to make it do like the outdoor scene. I don't know. It'd be cool to see like a daylight scene for once, to actually introduce the entire things with the gas station and whatnot. But then I would like to see that. I would definitely like to see the scene where, what was it? Sally. That just sounds really dickish of me. Her pushing Franklin. It's like,
and Franklin getting attacked.
Like a pop-up scare kind of thing.
Oh my god. And Franklin is getting attacked.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure like the gasoline guy coming at you with like a broomstick, I think that'd be pretty comical. But I know that they're just gonna solely concentrate on Leatherface, so I know we're gonna get a whole bunch of Leatherface scenes, and of course Leatherface in the kitchen, And of course, with the grandfather, like the whole dinner scene, of course, with the grandfather, then like I'm pretty sure they're gonna have like a mannequin holding like the hammer kind of thing,
Just
and then
dropping it over and over again.
no,
Like
not dropping it
that's the
over and over
scare. Like
again.
the scare is
But
that
the
like
girl,
the trigger is that it just drops the hammer and it shoots out air at you.
that'd
And
be
they do it so many times. They're like, here, Grandpa, you can do it. Doops.
But then like have Sally running out of the dinner scene. Oh, her jumping out windows would be great. Too. But yeah, I know that especially the end scene with Leatherface swinging a chainsaw. If those scare actors can pull that without injuring themselves, great on them. But I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like kind of like very minimalist because they don't want to hit the guests kind of thing.
Exactly. They'll
but
probably just do it like farther down from somebody, yeah.
Yeah, but I also heard that the plexiglass and the vinyl is not as much as people think. I had
that's what I've heard too.
That when and this said they only have plexiglass and vinyl on some things, but not all. So that's really nice.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's good to know. But yeah, that was our podcast on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So that was the first episode of our HHN IP month. So now that, the first weekend has gone, maybe now you got to experience the house and now you want to learn some more about the movie itself. There you go. You can learn some stuff now. But
except our speculations on the house is probably way off, to be fair.
Could be. We'll see what happens. But next week we have a very, very fun episode for you, and I know that one that Vania is extremely excited to discuss. And what's that going to be, Vania? And you cut out.
Bride of Frankenstein. I need a new mic.
Because we belong dead.
We belong dead. We're alive. Whichever one you prefer.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be discussing literally The Bride of Frankenstein. I cannot wait to talk about it. I every time I watch that movie, I just learn something new every time, and I love it. And I love it so freaking much.
I'm excited to rewatch it. I actually haven't rewatched Bride of Frankenstein.
I own it.
I haven't rewatched Bride of Frankenstein in like a year and a half, almost 2 years now. So it's been a while for me. So I'm excited to see it again and like really just get absorbed by it again and just talk about it.
Yeah, I love it so much. It's not as boring as people really actually make it to be. So.
Yeah, they're not... Okay, I wouldn't say the Universal Monster movies are boring. I mean, they're slow-paced. Because that's just how movies were made back in the day. Like, everything now, they didn't... First of all, they didn't have the budget or the ways to make bombastic explosions and crazy creatures and just, like, that kind of stuff. That just didn't happen.
And so also, it was during World War II, but it all escaped to Carl Laemmle. Literally had just gathered a whole bunch of directors, and they're like, "Hey, come with me if you want to escape Germany and like make films and shit." So they just went to America, and then because originally Hitler was like hiring like filmmakers to make his film, but everybody kept turning him down, and he was like sending like serious death threats against filmmakers just because, like, I don't know if you've seen those films where like he was trying to campaign his little camp as if it was something nice and good.
Yeah.
But obviously it wasn't. So, but I think like it's weird because a lot of people don't know the story of Carl Laemmle and how he just became like a whole ass icon for like creating Universal Studios and being like almost like a He didn't take all the credit for his films too. Like he gave credit where it was due. He helped like put the money towards and produce some of the films. He directed some, but he mostly gave most of the credit to the directors, which is why like almost each Universal Monster movie is so different to its own owner, So I think it's really cool. He's an icon in like the World War II aspects. Sorry, I learned a lot in my film class.
Hey, the same way that I knew random hidden subtext and meaning in Texas Chainsaw, history about Bride of Frankenstein and the Universal Monsters. So there you go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about
We
that
should
one
just
with
do
you.
a Universal monster series.
We really should. That would be so much fun. We really
Yeah.
should do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the end of this episode. So I had a fun time I enjoyed talking about this.
Yeah.
And I was glad to like rewatch the movie one more time before going to the house for HHN. So I'm sure I will talk about that on Twitter later at some point, just because it's been fun. But it is now time for some housekeeping. So obviously there are two of us in this podcast here today. So we're gonna start off with Vania. And Vania, where can we find you?
You can find me under HHN Cultus on both Twitter and on YouTube. I do anything with makeup, Universal Studios, Halloween Horror Nights, horror, you name it. Basically, mostly fan base. Of course, I'm not associated with Universal Studios. I know that kind of came off that way, but I don't. But I am a hardcore fan. I enjoy it, and yeah. And so, if that's something that you guys are interested in, give me a follow. I'm very hopeful that I will get some really cool footage for tomorrow. So yeah, so hopefully there will be a video soon. But there is also other interesting people in this podcast. So Yussef, where can you be found?
So you can find me on Instagram at Yusef1220 and on Twitter at itbeyusef. And then for our podcast itself, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then you can also listen to our podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else you can get a podcast. And then we also have our email, soundsfromthegravepodcast@gmail.com. So you can send us an email, or if you want to talk to us about anything or be on the show, just anything, just reach out to us. And also, actually, I didn't tell you about this, but I started a letterboxd for our podcast. So now that we did our review of Texas Chainsaw, that is going to be the first review that is also going to be on our letterboxd. So that way, if you want to reach out to us on that and like give us movie recommendations on there, you can definitely do that too. And that way, we can connect with some more people in a deeper film sense of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But with that, I think we have run out of things to say right now. Mostly because we want to go to sleep and wake up and then be like, hey, HHN.
Today's the sun is shining and the tank is clean. And the tank is clean.
Oh my god.
Sorry, that was a Disney reference.
and I'm over here like SpongeBob. I'm over here like, I'm ready. I'm ready.
You went to Under the Sea real quick. So,
Under the sea.
Guys.
All right.
So, see you guys at HHN if you guys are going to be there.
Yeah.
And if not, then, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Stay spooky. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, and enjoy HHN, everybody. Bye.
And Labor Day.
And Labor Day.